Greetings, precious friends. Welcome back to Aunt Patty's Kitchen on the Carnivore Hippie channel. Today we're doing something a little bit more down home. You know, when I was a kid, my mother wasn't a great cook, but she did have a small but very reliable repertoire of very enjoyable recipes. And one of them, lucky for me, because we ate it a lot, was, believe it or not, tuna casserole. Her recipe was actually very enjoyable, and it was so enjoyable that really, until I was in high school, I had no concept how many people had been actually traumatized by really, really bad tuna casserole. So if you've been traumatized by tuna casserole, take heart, because this recipe tastes just like my mom's did. Has very little, probably about, well, the only carbs is the carbs in the cheese and the cream. Maybe 4 grams or so of carbs per serving. And it's delicious. If you like tuna fish, if you like a tuna melt, you will like this. So let's get started. We're starting with our hardware as usual. We're starting with a 2-quart casserole dish. This is a tiny bit less than 2 quarts, but that's okay. Liberally greased up with your fat of choice. This happens to be some bacon grease, but that's just because it was what I had. You could use anything you want. Tallow, schmaltz, duck fat, butter, ghee, whatever. And we'll need a rig to drain your tuna. We'll talk about the tuna in a minute. This is just a colander over a large bowl to catch the water. Another large mixing bowl to mix up our liquid, our cream sauce, and a preheated, oven, preheated to 350 degrees, and you'll see behind me a sheet pan. That's got our carnivore noodles on it, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So let's go into software. In here, as you saw, there are 3 12-ounce cans of tuna. I got a mixture of albacore and light tuna, just because that gives me a taste balance that I like. Albacore is a little too bland for me, and light tuna is a little too fishy for me, so I just mix the two. You can use whatever kind you like or whatever mixture suits you. And this has been drained until it weighs between 25 and 30 ounces. Okay, so that's as much water as gone off of it. You don't have to get it super dry. You don't have to squeeze it. Just get it so it's not drippy anymore. And here we have, this is 8 ounces of shredded cheese. This is Colby Jack. You can use whatever kind of cheese you want. You could even use American cheese if you wanted to. But I think Colby Jack or a Monterey Jack cheddar blend tastes the best. That's what my mom always used, and that's the flavor I like. We got here also, as our binding and as our moistening sauce, we have 3/4 cup, 6 ounces of heavy whipping cream. Along with that, we're going to be using 2 eggs. Along with that, we're going to have our hardware. We're going to have a fork to beat those up with and a spoon to stir with, but that goes without saying. And for seasoning, we've got a teaspoon of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of fresh minced parsley. You can use dried parsley. You can leave the parsley out altogether if you want to. I just happen to really like parsley. My mom didn't use it, but I like parsley, so I just put it in a lot of things. But that's, you do you. And some freshly ground black pepper. We're not adding any salt to this recipe because there's plenty of salt in the tuna and there's plenty of salt in the cheese. If you make it and you find it's a little bit bland, you know, put a little salt on it at the table and then add a little salt next time you make it. Here we have, for our topping, we have 40 grams, which is just a little bit it's about 1.5 ounces of carnivore chips when we made carnivore chips and dip. These have just been seasoned with a little ghee and salt. And these are going to be our crispy topping, along with about 1 ounce of melted butter. And we're going to be using a little bit of our 8 ounces of cheese for that as well. So now, if you don't want to go through the hassle of making the carnivore chips as the topping, you can just use your good old handy dandy trusty pork panko. I like to crush my own, and I keep it in this pickle jar. So here we go. First thing, oh, last but not least, excuse me, I almost forgot. Back here, you see this sheet pan. These are one whole recipe of carnivore noodles that we made in a previous episode. Okay, these happen to be the carnivore noodles. These happen to be made of my recipe for carnivore taco shells. They're the ones that are made with a little bit of chicken flour because I like them. I think they're very sturdy and they stand up well to the casseroling process with the sauce and the baking and all the melted cheese and stuff. But you can use any of the carnivore noodle, either of the carnivore noodle recipes that are on, that I have on my episode list, and I'll put links to them. Or you can use Indigo Nilly's carnivore noodle recipe. Or you can use Ketogenic Woman's carnivore noodle recipe. Not the one that's like a science experiment with a squeeze bottle and the sodium alginate, and not that one. The one with the made from the egg white crepes, and you cut them up. And that's what these are. I cut them. I just made them tortilla shaped basically, and just cut them in strips like this. A little bit less than 1/2 inch across, and then I just cut them in appropriate lengths. And then what I did, the reason they're on this baking sheet is because I put them in my preheated oven for about 5 minutes to dry out a little bit, because it helps keep them from absorbing too much of the liquid and turning soggy. And I dried them out for about 5 minutes, then I took them out and I stirred them around, and then I put them back in for another 5 minutes, and then I took them out and stirred them around and let them cool. Okay. And you want to do that because otherwise they may soak up too much liquid and turn soggy, and then you won't really have a noodly casserole. You'll have more of a mush. And I didn't like that. So that's the noodles. And with that, we're going to get started. Once you have everything assembled, friends, I'm telling you, this will go really, really fast. First, we'll move this out of the way. We're going to beat up our eggs. Two eggs. And I'm just going to throw my onion powder right in along with it. Because it really doesn't matter when you put the onion powder in. It can go in any time. So beat that up well. And then we're going to just pour in and beat in, not too fast because you don't want to make a mess, our cream. It's 3/4 cup of cream. Put about 1/4 cup in at a time, or a little bit less at a time, whatever you want to do. so it doesn't splash all around when you're trying to beat it. Okay. Now I'm going to put my parsley in. Like I say, that's completely optional. And I'm going to use about 5 grinds of black pepper. Because I like black pepper with almost anything with cream in it. I even heard somebody made black pepper ice cream one time, which sounds really weird to me, but you know, I'm down. I'll try it. Okay, now we're going to stir our tuna fish into this egg mixture. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be squeezed really dry. It can be still a little moist. You can kind of tell it's got a little water in it. Still a little bit. It's moist, but not drippy. But you can see how much water I did get out of it. That was just letting it sit and drain by itself for about a half an hour. And we're just gonna beat this up. If there's any great big giant chunks of tuna, you can break them up if you want to. You can leave them whole if you like to get the odd big giant chunk of tuna as a treasure in your casserole. Or you can break it up real fine so that the tuna's more of a sauce for the noodles. You know, tuna casserole is a riff on an old Italian dish called pasta alla tonata, where they actually take cream and eggs like this and really, really finely broken up tuna and put it through a blender and use that to sauce pasta. And this, just historically speaking, is a riff on that. Tuna casserole wasn't really much of a thing, honestly, until after World War II, when a lot of American soldiers came back from Italy, from Europe, after World War II. And that's also when spaghetti and pizza took off in the U.S. Just a fun food fact. But anyway, that's also when tuna casserole got started. Anyway, so now we've got our tuna mixture and our cheese. And we're almost ready for the oven, folks, believe it or not. We got our casserole dish. And now, I'm gonna move that fork out of the way. We're going to gently fold our noodles into our tuna mixture. And I find that I like about half and half volume-wise noodles and tuna mixture. This recipe of noodles makes about 14 ounces of noodles by weight. It's about 400 grams. So I don't, volume wise, I like I said, about half and half tuna mix and noodles. There we go. Now here is a point at which you would like to adjust the seasoning. If you want a little more parsley, if you want a little more onion powder, if you want a little more salt or a little more pepper, or you just want to add something different that you think would be good. Freeze-dried chives would probably be really yummy. Swap that out for the onion powder. And Any kind of herb that you like with tuna fish would be good. You could put dill in this instead of parsley. That would be delicious. And then use like a cheese like Havarti or something like that. That would be really yummy too. So now we've got this all mixed up. Now we're ready to load that into our casserole dish. We're going to put about 1/3 of it spread into the bottom of our dish. Once you've got all the constituents set up, it really goes really fast. Put that down in there. And we're going to take, just so that we don't get, just so we don't lose track of what we're doing, I'm gonna, whoops. You all know I have to set something. I'm going to take about, that's like maybe almost 1/2 cup of cheese out of our 8 ounces. So that we'll make sure we have enough left over for our topping process that's over here. And so we're going to take about 1/3 of the remaining cheese and spread it. Okay. And now we're going to take another 1/3 of our casserole mixture. And make another layer. Press down gently to remove air pockets. This will also help the casserole hold together when you slice it, so it won't just come out in a blob. And cheese. And now, this casserole dish might be a little bit smaller than I expected, but that's okay, we'll make it work. This is going to be filled right up to the top, but that's okay. It's going to fit. So I said, press it down. I cannot tell you how much this looks like my mother's recipe. So now, here we have, here's where it gets fun. This is our carnivore chips from our carnivore chips and dip, seasoned, as I said, with just a little bit of ghee and salt. And we're just going to crunch these up roughly. We don't want them a powder. We want them fine enough so that they will spread in a relatively even layer. But we want them also large enough to have some texture. That one didn't get crispy, so I'm just going to take that bit out. All right, that's what you want. A mixture of fine and coarse crumbs. You can see this. Big ones, little ones, powdery ones, big chunky ones. That's what you want. Okay? Now, melted butter, about a tablespoon. Pour that on there. Or you could use ghee, or you could use bacon grease. Whatever you wanted. And our remaining cheese. And this cheese too, since we had a little bit left over. And we're just going to toss this all together until it's all crispy and cheesy and buttery and delicious. There. And now we're going to top our casserole. And this topping is very, very generous. I hope we don't have a bubble over. I'm going to have to put this on a baking tray, I see, because I want to make sure we don't have a bubble over. I don't think we will, though. Now, again, just pat this down. You use the casserole that you have where everything will fit. Or, you know, just use a little bit less. Take a little bit of the tuna fish out or a few of the noodles out to make sure it fits. Or a few of each kind, each part, to make sure it fits. And there we have it. Friends, we're going to put this in the oven. The oven is preheated to 350 degrees. And it's going to sit in there for about between 20 and 30 minutes, depending on your oven. Okay? But the eggs have to cook in the sauce. Okay? So that's what's going to bind everything together and make it casserole-y. So here we go. Bye, Mr. Casserole. We'll see you later. I did say I was going to put it on a baking sheet, didn't I? Here we go. Now, precious friends, that is going to cook, as I said, between 20 and 30 minutes, or until the top is brown and crispy. And the whole thing is heated through to at least 150 degrees, okay? I'm not going to make you sit here and wait for the timer to count down. I'm just going to pause the video and clean up a little bit, and you're going to go off and have a cup of coffee or do whatever it is you do. And I will see you back here in just a few minutes when this is ready to come out. See you in a bit. We're done, precious friends. It's time to take our lovely casserole out of the oven. Let me get my camera just rearranged right here. And here we go. Where did I put my, there it is. Here we are. Hot pad. Oh, that is heavy and hot. I don't want that hot dish set down on my marble countertop, so here we are. Let me tilt this down. There it is, precious friends. That, oh my goodness, it smells so good. If you like tuna, if you've ever had a positive experience with a tuna casserole, you'll like this. If you've never had a positive experience with a tuna casserole, but you like tuna, you'll like this. It tastes like a tuna melt without the bread. So here we go. Ordinarily, this is best to sit about 10 minutes before you cut into it, so the top can crisp up a little bit and the casserole can firm up a little bit. So we're going to let this sit for just a few minutes, for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video again and we'll be back in just a few minutes so that this will be ready to slice up. Here we are again, precious friends, and we are ready to slice this puppy up and have a taste. This is 6 servings for ordinary appetites and like 4 servings for great big carnivore 1 meal a day type appetites. But we're gonna cut this into 6 servings. And this, by the way, is really delicious the next day, reheated in the oven as leftovers. My husband thinks it's even better the next day. Now, of course, getting the first square out is always a little bit problematic, so pardon me if I make a bit of a mess of it. Oh, looks like it's going to come out really good. Oh, praise the casserole gods. Whoops. Not quite. Here we go. There we go. The second one is always prettier than the first one. There you have it. Lovely. My precious friends. Tuna casserole, carnivore. If you have pleasant memories of tuna casserole as a kid, like I did, this is going to be great for you. Let's have a taste. I'm going to save the pretty piece for my hubby. And I'm going to taste the one that I bunged up. You can see, I don't know, you couldn't really see the cheese, the melty cheese, but let me see if I can get it to. Oh, you can't see the cheese stretching, but it is so close to my mom's tuna casserole as makes really no difference. The noodles taste like noodles. The topping, I don't know if you can hear it, is crispy and crunchy. It doesn't taste like potato chips like my mom's tuna casserole topping was made out of, but it's certainly cheesy and crispy enough so that, you know what, it's good. Anyway, there you go, my friends. Tuna casserole on a carnivore diet. It's possible. Thank you so much for joining me. I wish you peace, love, and meat. And I'll be back soon with another surprising recipe for your carnivore way of eating. See you later. Bye.